There's an idea out there that you'll see everywhere, especially now with a plethora of people talking about trauma and PTSD and narcissistic abuse and all of those things, is this idea is put out there that this needs to be like your full-time job. Like, you need to know how to psychoanalyze yourself. You need to have multiple people who are psychoanalyzing you as well and putting you through different trauma therapies. And while there are time and place for these things, I've seen women doing this for a very long length of time and not feel better, not do any better. In fact, I have known people who have told me they have had the EMDR treatments or trauma therapy, and it only made them feel worse. There is a risk of opening yourself up in such a way that it makes you feel worse if the clinician doesn't know how to properly bring you back into the now. I'm not going to get far into this, but I just want to use this as a word of warning. And I'm not giving any advice here on trauma therapy or your current mental health therapy that you're getting from whoever it may be. I'm a former therapist, so I learned a lot about trauma and helping, someone in a crisis, like crisis intervention and all of those things in my studies. But what I've learned, also having been someone that has been through a lot of what you would quote unquote call traumas and things like that, I am a firm believer that we can become our own worst enemy in this when we cling on to the trauma as a reason why we can't thrive, as a reason why we are the way that we are. And I see this a lot of times with women, and I hear this a lot when they have come out of a relationship where narcissistic abuse and betrayal and manipulation and control are all part of the dynamics. It's very common to hear something of the sort like, this is going to take a long time. I have a lot of work to do. And there's just something there that's blocking me from being happy, from being able to move on, from feeling free. Insert. Something is blocking me. Something is stopping me. I don't know what it is. I've got to figure it out. It's not this thing like, oh, there's this thing within you deep inside you need to excavate. No, you can choose to realize what you've been through. This isn't about sweeping it under the rug. It's recognizing what you've been through, accepting it, and choosing to move on. And you can move on while you still have space for what comes up in the now. This is what I teach my clients, is we don't need to go excavating and looking for all of this. We work with what's in the now. So if something comes up in the now that is related to something that came up that happened in the past, then we work with that in the now. We also work with what's going well in the now. What can you feel grateful for now? What can you feel joyful and peaceful about now? What can you feel appreciative about now? What are the things you can do in your now to improve your wellness, your health, your mental health, your career, your finances? You can work with that in the now, or you can use what you've been through as a reason to stay stuck. Okay, so what I see happens is that women haven't fully absorbed that the threat is behind them when they have left these types of situations, or they could have been long past, years and years, decades ago. We need to really embody inner safety so that we know that we really are safe and that we don't have to keep carrying the past with us moment to moment like a heavy sack of boulder rocks. And I know that people have been exposed to great tragedies and ongoing trauma, and maybe at this time, this is not who I'm speaking to. This is more for those of you that you're not in any immediate danger. You don't have any ongoing traumatic events going on in your life at the moment. And this is about how do we actually move past this now? We can carry adverse childhood experiences, and in adulthood, we experience things in our teenagehood, like all of those things. And when they are not properly processed and dealt with at the time, so this is where it's really important to deal with things as soon as possible after. And this is why my program is designed for women who have left one of these relationships, like right after you've left would be the best time to come in. That's my Thriving After Narcissistic Abuse program, because the way that it works is traumas that were not fully moved through, or you didn't have someone there to help you in the right way, you didn't feel validated, you didn't have someone there affirming your reality, then it gets pushed down, brushed aside, and these things do pile up. All right, they do pile up if you've had multiple things happen to you in your life where there was no proper resolution, or there was no support, or the people in your life didn't handle it correctly if things happened in your childhood. Those things do pile up. And so those are the things, as you make the decision to move on, these things might come up from now and then, right? Things might come up. And this is why I'm very much about, let's work with what's happening in the now. We don't need to go back into past regression and put you back in that trauma. I really don't feel that that is helpful for anyone. And I'm not saying not to do that. Please don't take it that way. I'm not here to tell anyone to stop therapies that they're doing and have somebody come tell me I'm being negligent or unethical. This is just my take on it. As a former therapist, I graduated my program 12 years ago. I've done a lot of work with women that have come out of traumatic situations. And I'm not a trauma therapist or specialist, and I'm not trying to say that I am at all. I also have experienced my fair share of all of those things, and I just have a different take on it. I really believe we can permanently shift our brain that has become used to being hypervigilant and on edge all the time and identifying as a helpless victim. We can start to feel safe, and we don't have to feel this sad cloak of grief around us at all times for things that have gone wrong or have not gone the way we planned. We can go on and on about how things were and how we were duped and how we were treated and how it should have been. You can carry that on for another 10 years or until your last dying day. Or you can choose to move into the now with the trauma that you've experienced. I don't think there's a moving on. I don't think there's erasing it from our psyche and feeling as though nothing ever happened. That's really just gaslighting ourselves. And so there's no elusive place of like, I'm trauma free. So what's the goal? The goal is we want to be happy. We want to feel joyful. We want to be present in our lives for the people that we love. We want to know how to take care of ourselves mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. We want to find purpose and meaning in our lives. And we can do that with trauma and in spite of it. And when we're doing that, we're healing those parts. We don't need to go digging in the closet to find traumas and how to heal them. We can leverage the good and joyful things in our lives now. We can attach our brains to ways to embrace joy again now, not when there's some elusive time when you've moved through all of the trauma in your closet. We can actually train our brain and body to feel into calm, relaxation, and change our thoughts. We can train ourselves to do that. We can choose a growth mindset and commit to our personal transformation the way we have committed to trying to fix and change others for so long. We can choose to put ourselves first when we have always put others before ourselves. And this is uncomfortable for many of us who've spent our lives focusing on the outer. We can move into the joy now. And I just wanted to plug this here for you. I wanted to share this because, again, it's something I see over and over repeatedly with women. And there's a lot of stuff out there on social media that can actually lead you to feeling pretty hopeless. And it's kind of like this feeling of like, oh my God, like how many different things do I actually need to be doing? Because people are posting things on social media that, I mean, yes, they want to sell their coaching, and it's a business model, one that I'm in, of course. But what I've seen is that there's a lot of talk about how grueling and difficult it is to heal through trauma, and a lot of stuff that just pokes at traumas that we have experienced when they're writing things about specific traumatic things maybe you've experienced. And this is the biggest thing I see with the narcissistic abuse content on social media nowadays, is that it can just keep re-triggering the trauma so you can never get out of it. When you're surrounded by that for long enough, it keeps you feeling repressed and in that victimized state. So we need to eventually move out of that. And everybody's journey is different when we make this decision. And that doesn't mean life is just all rainbows and butterflies and you're consistently in this happy, joyful, blissed out state. No, we all have bad days. We're going to have moments where grief hits us. We're going to have moments where we feel down. We feel like life is getting us from every direction. This is just called being human. I'm really convinced that there is no happy, elusive place to get to. It's being joyful in the now when shit's hitting the fan, when nothing is going our way, when everything seems to be working against us. How can you take what's happening now and work with it and experience your life as it is now? Because you don't know if you're going to have tomorrow or that 5 years or 10 years that you think it's going to take to be able to actually fully live your life now.